banks among the services being impacted. Joining me now live on LBC News is Dr. Junade Ali, a cybersecurity and IT expert and fellow at the IET, the Institute of Engineering and Technology. Good afternoon to you.
Hello, good afternoon,
First of all, what was your reaction when you first heard of this outage? One of surprise or not?
To be honest with you, not one of surprise. This has been something which I personally have been warning about for a number of months now, and something which has been of concern within the community. And I think those who followed the news over the past few months may have heard of similar outages affecting things like credit card processing and on the high street. And of course, we've seen other IT issues in the news, things around, say, the Horizon IT scandal. So unfortunately, not one of surprise. But of course, this is hugely devastating for all those who have been impacted.
So what was your warning?
So essentially, the problems we've seen over the past few months have been there's been greater pressure on software engineers to deliver the latest features as quickly as possible, often, without necessarily regard for the safety and security implications that can come with that. And as a result of that, we've seen a number of things kind of similar to this kind of build up over some period of time. And I think, of course, there'll be quite significant impact in trust for the wider public as this happens. So I think one of the things which will be absolutely critical for us to take away from this is making sure that software engineers have the ability to kind of be able to speak up and raise the alarms and the freedom to discuss and raise issues as early as possible, rather than us kind of pushing through changes and focusing on delivering the latest features as quickly as possible.
The company behind it, the cybersecurity firm CrowdStrike, are insisting there was a defect in one of its software updates hitting the Windows operating system. They're keen to stress it wasn't a cyber attack.
Yes, absolutely. So this is kind of one of those things which has been as a result of a software change. These software changes which happen quite regularly with a variety of our systems. So it's not something similar to the outages we've seen recently affecting the NHS. But of course, this has had some quite substantial impact. And it is worth saying we have in the past there have been issues with software which have caused pretty significant problems. In the past, when I used to work in, for instance, internet infrastructure, we would see issues, but often we would be able to address them quite quickly because we would be able to centrally kind of make the changes. The real issues that happens with this particular issue, for instance, is how it's affected kind of the computers involved. So it's affected individual computers, and it's been a change which has taken some effort in order to get widely distributed. So computers will have to be restarted multiple times in the hope that they're able to get that update in time during kind of the boot up cycle. And at the same time, there'll be some which might not be able to get the update and they'll need manual intervention. And kind of before this update was deployed, we saw colleagues having to manually kind of make these changes on individual computers in order to try and get them to start up normally again. So it's definitely been something which has been quite challenging to deal with. It's definitely going to go down in the history books. This is probably the biggest IT outage we've faced in history.
So Elon Musk is right when he says that?
Yes, I think I'd agree with that sentiment, yeah.
Shares in CrowdStrike opened nearly 15% down on the Nasdaq stock exchange in New York, apparently wiping about $12.5 billion off the value of the cybersecurity company, which will obviously certainly hit some people in their pockets. Is there an argument that the system, having all your eggs in one basket, as it were, is not acceptable? Does there need to be some better regulation or control over who does these updates, how these operating systems work? We're talking about planes being grounded in America, people unable to get a taxi or see their GP, and that's just here.
Absolutely. So yeah, we've seen these huge challenges. In airports, we've seen hospitals impacted. We're potentially going to see people's payroll impacted as well. And I think when it comes to the solutions of this, I've looked historically into lots of these types of scenarios, things which have caused planes to enter Death Stars, things which have caused fatal car crashes or fatal radiation overdoses in hospitals, like these kind of computer issues. And often when it comes down to it, yes, regulation does play a role, but fundamentally, the way these problems happen is there's often a technical start to it, but then these technical issues snowball into catastrophes because people don't talk about the issues and software engineers don't feel as if they're able to raise the alarm early enough. And then things just snowball and they cascade and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. So regulation does play a role, but the really fundamental part is often actually just being able to raise the alarm and speak about these issues. And part of that feeds into, as you mentioned, kind of having things like business continuity plans, simple things like having backups of your IT systems and backups of your files, those types of things, and having that kind of risk management is critical. But it all starts with having the ability to for the engineers who are working on this to raise the alarm and being able to speak about these issues. And that's the thing which is really fundamental to all this.
We'll add, actually, workers may experience a delay in their pay following the IT outage because the body representing payroll providers, the Global Payroll Association Chief Executive Melanie Peasy, saying it could have serious implications for businesses across the nation, particularly those who process payroll weekly. Could this situation have been prevented then, had the warnings been adhered to?
Absolutely, yes. I think there's many things which could have potentially, fed into this and could have helped address these issues. And this is not something this year we've seen that's come out of the blue. We've all heard of these outages. There've been so many outages. There've been some which haven't even been reported in the media. There's outages I'm aware of which a few months ago, which affected, for instance, the Met Police, which didn't really get publicly reported because there were just so many things which were happening. And of course, even a few years ago, we saw those WannaCry outages, which affected the NHS, which is hugely dependent on Microsoft computers, which are, and particularly ones using outdated systems. And obviously that's a big issue, and it will take time to address that. But that was something which happened in 2017, and we've had a lot of time to be able to look into that. So this is something which has been catastrophic, and it's been something where it really highlights that when we see these issues, the best thing for us to do is to address them as early as possible, because if we delay things and they snowball, it's not only technically harder, but also people get more entrenched into those kind of into more of the dogmatic viewpoint. So it's really important for us to be able to address these issues early and be able to get solutions out as quickly as we can.
Thank you very much for joining me live, Dr. Junade Ali, a cybersecurity and IT expert at and also a fellow at the Institution of Engineering and Technology. Well, we mentioned the problems that are being caused because of the outages at airports.